Good evening. Welcome to another episode of The Painler. I'm Max Payne, and tonight I'm going to go back to my New Japan Pro Wrestling days. Chris and I were told after a particular, the way it worked was when we lived in the dojo, is we lived there, I was there for like 12 or 13 tours, which accounted for most of a year in the end. And we would go to different cities all over the place in those tours. And then when the tour would end, we'd go back to the dojo. We'd work out for the time in between the next tour, which was usually 10 days for 2 weeks. We didn't get paid while we lived in the dojo. We just, no, I take that back. We did get paid. We just got paid $1,500 a week, whether we wrestled or didn't wrestle. We just made $1,500 a week. That's what I was making living in the New Japan dojo. And so after this particular tour, Seiji Sakaguchi came to me, and he was our boss. He was the guy who owned New Japan. He made all the financial decisions, and he was the one that paid us. And he came to us at the end of the tour, and he said, look, I'm going to give each of you an extra couple of $100 because we're going to leave and go out of town, and we're going to Saipan. And Chris and I, well, why don't we get to go? And they're like, oh, it was a prepaid vacation, and you guys don't get to go, blah, blah, blah. Well, we weren't happy, but by the same token, that meant we were going to be in the dojo for 10 days by ourselves. And so that night, we'd gone and got McDonald's or something, and we were laying there watching TV or listening to music. No, we didn't watch TV. We didn't have a television. We were listening to music and laughing and telling stories, and all of a sudden we could hear somebody was working out in the dojo. And I got up and said, hey, I'm going to run out and see what's going on. And Chris says, hey, I'll go with you. And so we get up and we go out to the dojo, and here is Funaki, another wrestler named Sano, who didn't live at the dojo. I don't know what his association was with the dojo, but he was friends with Funaki. And then there was this very, very young boy. He was probably 15 or 16, maybe. Well, that's what he looked like. He's probably 20, but he didn't look that old. I think he was 16. And we were watching, and right when we walked in, they had his leg on a turnbuckle, and they were jumping in the air, and they were trying to break his ankle. Now, I know the difference between a work and a shoot, and it was obvious they were trying to hurt this kid, and they were trying to hurt him bad, really bad. And I immediately felt sorry for him, and it pissed me off. And Chris and I walked out, and I said, I can't walk away, because I said something to them. I said, what's going on here? And they didn't answer. They just kept going. And we walked out, and we walked back in. I said to Chris, I can't take this. And so I walked back in, and I said, what's going on here? And they said the young boy actually spoke the best English. He said, oh, we are just training. I said, no, you're not. These guys are trying to hurt you, and I can see that. And he said, no, that's the problem. I said, no. Look, I don't know what the hell's going on, but 2 guys against 1 ain't fair, and you guys need to stop, and you need to stop right now, because this is bullshit. I don't know what the custom is, but what you're doing's wrong, and I can see it in your faces that you know it's wrong. Stop trying to hurt this kid and take his career from him before he even gets started. And I could tell what was going on. It was really obvious they were jealous as hell of this kid, because this kid could walk on the top ropes. He could do anything in the ring. And the only reason I know that is because of the rest of the story. In the end, I defended this guy, and the Japanese went out of town the next day. And so he stayed at the dojo because he was brought there by Yamamoto, who was more or less just a figurehead in New Japan by this time, but was still a very important part of the New Japan dojo world. In fact, he was the guy who was kind of responsible for all the young guy recruits. And so Funaki and Sano, they both went, oh, yeah, we don't understand. Wakanda, bullshit. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Quit picking on this kid and trying to end his career. And they left. And this guy ended up being really good friends with Chris and I. And we hung out with him for the entire time that that the New Japan Dojo was gone. And the day before they came back, Yamamoto came and got him. And he said, tomorrow I leave. We all cried. We hugged. He had to go to Mexico to start his career. And had we not stopped Funaki and Sano, they would have broken his ankles and his career would have ended before it ever started. 2 years ago, two amazing people, Cappy and Kevin Marston, tracked me down. Because I guess I was one of those guys that there were a few people that wanted my autograph and were still looking for me and said, whatever happened to Max Payne? And so they tracked me down and they brought me in for a signing and they took really good care of me and they were first class guys all the way. And I just got to tell you, I had just nothing but a wonderful, wonderful experience with those guys. And we went to a signing convention in Albany, New York on this particular day. And there were a lot of people there. Wrestlers who don't necessarily like me, but regard me regardless. But the one thing I wanted to see if there was any Japanese wrestlers there, maybe one I had been in the dojo with. And I had never met Sonny Ono before, and Sonny Ono approached the table where I was signing, and he started talking to me, and he didn't know who I was. Nobody does in Japan because I didn't make it there. I didn't get famous there, and those are all other reasons explained at another time. But Sonny started going, oh my God, I do know who you are. You're Peter. You're the guy that was in the dojo with Chris and Brian. And I said, yeah. And finally, he made the association, and all of a sudden, Sonny really opened up to me. He was very generous to me, and he said, I said, who do you got with you now? And he said, it's Ultimo Dragon. He goes, come on over and I'll give you my phone number and address and whatever it was. He said, come over and we'll talk to you. So I go over to the booth, and he's got a wrestler with him, a Japanese wrestler with him, and he introduces me to him, and he says, Max, this is Ultimo Dragon. And I said, oh, how you do? How'd you manage today? And I looked at him and he goes, Pita? And I said, yeah. And he goes, I am Asai. And I started to cry. I hadn't seen him since that moment in the dojo in 1986. Well, as you can imagine, my jaw dropped to the floor. We stood there and hugged, and the last thing he said to Sonny Ono was, he saved my life. Now, you don't have to believe this story. I hope that you do ask Asai, because you know him as Ultimo Dragon. His name is Yoshihiro Asai. Hajimemashite, Yoshihiro Asai. Arigato gozaimasu, Tafa. Everything, he's such a wonderful guy. He was nothing but generous, and it just was so great. And then he went on to be the most amazing wrestler. Can you imagine if Funaki would have broke his ankle that day? You wouldn't have got Yoshihiro Asai, Ultimo Dragon. Hey, that's my story this time on The Pain Lair. I'm Max Payne. You're the hidden. I love you and I believe in you. Come and join me all the time. We're going to just do some more really fun things. And there is a movie I need to talk about. If you're a Max Payne fan, Man Mountain Rock fan, you know about my movie. I'm going to start talking about it. It's got to come out sooner or later. I've been through hell with it. I will impart with it more, but trust me, I haven't forgotten, and it's not going away. So once again, I'm Max Payne. This is the Pain Lair. That's my story from New Japan Pro Wrestling. I love you, the Hidden, everybody. Until the next time, them.